Hi everyone, today we have another publisher interview and we're really fortunate to have Steve from Ace Previews and co-host of the Eat Sleep Tennis podcast. So Steve, thanks so much for joining us.
No worries, thanks very much for having me.
Great. So maybe you want to just tell us a little bit about your story and how you got into this whole space.
Yeah, sure. So look, it probably spans back about 8 or 9 years. Obviously, as you can kind of tell, a lot of my content and work that I do is around the tennis space. So did a lot of work through the first, I think, 5 to 6 years for a lot of kind of either friends or work acquaintances websites, providing kind of some written content and previews around tennis matches for a lot of their websites. So nothing of my own. It was working for other people. Made the decision a couple of years ago to then try and branch out, as I developed a little bit of a following, to be able to kind of branch out and, have a go for myself. So obviously was doing the same work then for myself with my own website. Explored, obviously, having a look at, subscription avenues and other ways of trying to kind of monetize what is, well, it's not a full-time job for me, but, it's a passion area and trying to kind of get something back for the work that I put in. And yeah, so I guess, since I think it's been about 9 years, I think since the account was, originated on Twitter, and here we are.
Great. So you mentioned challenges regarding monetization. What do you see as some of the challenges in your industry, past, present, and today?
I think it is finding that space. And I think that the space around providing previews, be it used for people who like to watch tennis or who like to bet on tennis or whatever it is, that for whatever purpose that it serves for them, I think there is obviously finite opportunities, I guess, for people to be able to earn money for the work that they're providing. Again, look, for me, I might be a little bit of a weird case that, even if I wasn't able to monetize anything, I'd probably still be doing it in some capacity because I just enjoy the concept and what's involved with it. But I think, any further avenues or abilities to be able to actually monetize in whatever small amount or large amount that you can, I think is really good in terms of rewarding and, I guess, generating more content out there in the space, as opposed to kind of just being left to the bigger companies, I guess, to kind of inherit the space that's there. And I think, from a betting or gambling perspective, it's particularly a big case in the US at the moment. As things are becoming more legalized, there's more opportunities and, I guess, more room in that space to be able to grow. So I think, it gives a lot of opportunity, I think, for people, to be able to monetize either for themselves or working for others. But I think it's important that there are options there, I think, for people to be able to make a decision of what they want to do. Because in some instances, like myself, this isn't my full-time job, but I can figure out a way to try and make sure that, there is something, I guess, coming back the other way for the work that's put out.
Terrific. And so how did you, in the end or at the start, how did you get introduced to Public? And maybe you want to explain a little bit of how you've already integrated into your business model.
Yeah, sure. So 2020 was obviously a tricky and unexpected year for everyone, really. So through all of 2019 and the early stage of 2020, I was doing a monthly subscription model. So whoever was interested in my content was able to pay a set price per month to be able to view that. I did find I was obviously successful and it worked quite well. But I guess for me, myself, as I said before, when it's not a full-time job and it is, in some ways a hobby, I guess having that not necessarily pressure, but when you're providing a monthly subscription service year round, there is, although it's not really mentioned by anyone, there's that inherent expectation that, you are providing a consistent amount of work 365 days of the year or as close to as possible. If you're not delivering content, people are going to be asking, why am I subscribing and why am I paying for this? So that was obviously, that was working okay, but that all came to a halt when everything got paused with COVID. So particularly when you write about tennis and tennis gets cancelled for almost half a year, that income stream stops and drops to zero. So it was more around a means of trying to figure out, I guess, on the other side, when things did start to open up again, what I wanted to do with the website and what I wanted to do with the work that I was doing to make it a little bit more consistent, I guess, or work, I guess, for me within my work-life balance. Mm-hmm. So obviously then, I was made aware of Public and what was involved there. And when the tour did resume, it seemed like a logical, I still had everything else paused and set there that, it could have been restarted if I wanted to, but I thought, this is a better way to be able to deliver content that isn't restricted just to the people who've signed up. And I think that's a really important thing, particularly when you're a smaller site delivering content. If you do go down a subscription model path, you end up pigeonholing yourself, and it's very hard to display your content to new people to subscribe without obviously alienating the base that you've got there to, make sure that they're still getting value for what they're paying for. So I thought this was probably a better approach for me. It means that, if I don't want to do anything for a month, I don't have to. I can, it's completely up to me, and I have, I guess, a little bit more control back with that. So I guess that's how I've kind of integrated that into, it's not the only income stream, but it's part of it to be able to say, well, this is a way that I can, the things that I would generally deliver for free to anyone who wants to read it, it means that something, I guess, is at least coming back the other way.
And have you seen then an increase in the number of obviously paid free subscribers that perhaps you wouldn't have seen under the paid model?
Yeah, and I think that's the case with, when you go through website stats and you look at everything, when, a lot of the work that I was doing previously, it was, closed off to the regular, it was sent out via emails instead of being put up on a website that was, to a select number. Whereas, if you've got it up as a public page, it means anyone can jump on at any time and take a look. So, with that, site stats and everything else kind of builds. And, particularly for myself, when you're working around Grand Slams, they're obviously the biggest kind of, there's more attention and more buzz.
Yeah.
I think around the world compared to, the other weeks, I guess, of the season. So, being able to kind of send that out and work with other people who write about tennis and try and link with people to.
What are some of the methods you've deployed to get the best out of Public?
I think probably the key thing, and me trying to then put myself kind of in the shoes of the person consuming the content. Mm-hmm. I think if you're just honest with the people, if the readers or whoever it is that your population or audience is, I think just being honest with them of like what you're doing and why you're doing it. I think everyone's kind of resistive to change or resistive to something being different. But I guess for me, for example, I was pretty blunt and forthright, I guess, in terms of, the concept and why I'm doing what I'm doing, and trying to kind of turn back and say, look, if it's either me taking this route and going down and posting all this content out here for free, the way I am, and you being able to consume it, for free, or flipping back to a subscription model that's going to cost each consumer X number of dollars. Mm-hmm. So I think if you're quite honest and go, look, yes, it is something a little bit different. I think everyone, I think I'd like to think people adapt fairly quickly, but I think if you're just blunt, honest and upright and, upfront with them, I think that's been probably what I've found the most helpful, and I guess trying to kind of explain to readers as well, the concept around it and how it all works. I think that's probably the key thing.
And because you've included in some of or actually all of your posts now, a message regarding Public, do you want to explain what that's all about there?
Yeah, it's more around, obviously, the content being free for the consumer, be it myself or if it's someone else writing or anyone on any site, really. I think if you can explain, I guess, the benefits for signing up and joining Public for both the person delivering the content in terms of, being able to kind of earn through clicks, but also, to be able to kind of have that personalized space as well for those who have signed up, to have, you know, their interests, and, you know, where they can kind of build their own little area, I guess, on the side, or perhaps, you know, deliver their own content and start to go down that path as well. I think it gives an opportunity to a lot of people to, you know, a lot of work to not, you know, that was previously done for free, to be able to have, you know, as I said, that little bit, I guess, back the other way, to be able to monetize that in some way. So I think just explaining and looking at the bottom of the articles to explain that, you know, this is public, and this is what's involved with the links, and I guess the benefit of, you know, someone clicking once on their first article and that counting for, you know, someone, you know, trying to deliver, if you can get some people to sign up and be a part of it, and, you know, actually generate per, you know, every time they click on an article across, you know, 500 articles, say, across a year, compared to just that first time, obviously makes a massive difference. So I think that's one of those things of being able to kind of slowly build it up. But yeah, as I said, just being honest with it, as like, this is what it is. And if anyone has any questions, by all means, they're more than happy to reach out, be it, you know, from a reader point of view, or for someone with their own website wanting to do a similar thing.
So in regards to that, actually, regarding the community, actually, maybe you want to talk about a little bit how you've now been connected, perhaps even more, through to the tennis community from Public.
Yeah, it's a key thing. You know, if you're thinking about other accounts or other websites or other people that you work with, perhaps, who are in the same space with a very similar overlapping population, then, you know, if you can work with that, you know, with those other groups or sites, to be able to kind of, you know, if between all of you, you can generate a group that, you know, has all signed up and they've all, you know, come on board, that, you know, if I can get someone to sign up and create a profile, and then someone else comes along, you know, who I work with or work closely with, and they start delivering content on Public as well, that the clicks from that person I got to sign up is still going to help every time they go and read the works of other people in the space. So I think it's really important to be able to kind of get that, like, community, I guess, together, that it's kind of a group effort, I think, to make sure, you know, as I said, there's a big difference between you know, a click from someone who has signed up and someone who hasn't signed up, you know, over the course of 10, 100, 1,000 articles. So I think if you can be upfront and honest, but then also work with people who are in a similar area, then it's mutually beneficial.
Yeah. So I have to ask you, Steve, as a major tennis fan myself, what has been your favorite tennis experience, real life tennis experience, with either a player or a tournament, now that you've been across a lot of tournaments the last years?
My favorite personal experience is probably when I was a ball boy at the Australian Open a very long time ago. Must have been, was it 2005? I think it may have been. When I got the chance to be a ball boy for Roger Federer's semi-final that year at the Australian Open, I got really excited. I was like, right, like, this is it. So you do 45 minutes on, 45 minutes off. It was Roger Federer against Andy Roddick. I thought, oh yeah, like, they've played some really good matches over the years. Like, this could be a you know, relatively competitive match. Anyway, I didn't start on, but I went on for like the second lot. And I was only on there for 45 minutes because I think the match was over in about an hour and a half, because Federer put together one of his best matches of all time. But just kind of being there, being, you know, 5 feet away from arguably one of the best players, or, you know, at that point in time, he was probably the best of all time, or well on the way to you know, putting a pretty big lead on a couple of other men's players. I think that probably takes the cake in terms of biggest or best experience, I think, in terms of, you know, in person, you know, being at the tennis.
Great. I'm already very jealous hearing that story. So amazing experience. And yeah, you're right, being so close up close to the players, it's an awesome experience. So thanks very much, Steve. And thanks for sharing your story already. Like, you know, we've seen that you've been really one of the most successful publishers in terms of really working with the community, and it's obvious through the results. So thanks again for taking the time today. And yeah, we hope to see more of your content on Public soon.
No worries. Thanks very much for having me.